The storm raged with unnatural fury across the alien landscape, its violet lightning splitting the dark sky as Kale secured the last of his cabin's shutters. He'd weathered many storms on this remote planet, but none quite like this. The winds howled with voices that seemed almost sentient, and the rain struck his windows like desperate fingers. A sound cut through the tempest's roar, a cry distinctly not belonging to any native creature he knew. Kyle pressed his face to the reinforced glass, squinting through the sheets of rain. There, a figure stumbling through the storm, falling, rising, falling again. Without hesitation, he grabbed his weather gear and plunged into the maelstrom. The figure was small, humanoid, and clearly in distress. As he drew closer, his breath caught. Purple skin gleamed wetly in the lightning flashes, and long blonde hair clung to a distinctly feminine form. She wore torn clothing that might once have been elegant, now reduced to tatters that barely covered her slender frame. "Hey!" he shouted over the wind. "This way!" She looked up with eyes like liquid silver, wide with terror and exhaustion. Her two arms clutched her side where dark fluid seeped between her fingers. Blood, he realized, though it appeared more violet than red. She tried to back away, but her legs gave out. Kyle approached slowly, hands visible and empty. "I'm not going to hurt you. My cabin's just ahead. You need shelter. You need..." Something in his tone must have reached her because she didn't resist when he carefully lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than expected, her purple skin surprisingly warm despite the cold rain. Her head fell against his shoulder as consciousness wavered. Inside the cabin, Kale laid her gently on his couch near the fire. Her silver eyes fluttered open, immediately scanning the room with the alertness of prey. They lingered on the shadowed corner where an old blanket covered some forgotten storage, then darted back to him. "Water," she whispered in accented but clear English, her voice like wind chimes. As Kale moved to help her, he noticed how she never stopped watching that corner, as if expecting something terrible to emerge from beneath the innocent-looking blanket. Kyle knelt beside Vaya with a bowl of warm water and clean cloth, his movements deliberate and unthreatening. "I need to clean your wound," he said softly. "May I?" Her silver eyes searched his face before she nodded slightly. As he gently lifted the torn fabric from her side, she winced, but didn't pull away. The gash was deep but clean, a blade wound, not claws. "Who did this to you?" he asked, dabbing carefully at the violet blood. "The hunters," she whispered, her accent making the words sound like a curse. "They came in the night. My people. We are few now. They say we carry disease, that we steal their children, but it's lies. All lies." Her breath caught as he applied pressure to slow the bleeding. "They killed everyone in our settlement, everyone except..." She trailed off, her gaze drifting again to the shadowed corner. The blanket seemed to shift slightly, perhaps just the firelight playing tricks, but Vaya's body tensed like a bowstring. "I had family," she continued, her voice barely audible. "A younger one, so small, so scared. In the chaos, we were separated. I searched, but the flames..." She closed her eyes, tears sliding down her purple cheeks. Kyle's hands stilled on the bandage he was wrapping around her torso. The intimacy of the moment, her trust in letting him tend to her wounds, the firelight dancing across her exotic features, made his chest tighten with unexpected protectiveness. "You're safe now," he murmured, his fingers brushing her arm. "Whatever's out there can't reach you here." But Vaya wasn't looking at him anymore. Her eyes were fixed on the corner where the blanket definitely moved this time, a distinct rustling that made her breath quicken with terror. The firelight cast dancing shadows that seemed to writhe beneath the fabric. "Kyle," she breathed, her hand gripping his wrist with surprising strength. "There's something in your cabin, something alive." He followed her gaze, frowning. To him, it looked like nothing more than old fabric covering forgotten supplies. But the way Vaya trembled against him suggested she saw something far more threatening, lurking in that innocent corner. The blanket moved again, more distinctly this time, a definite shift that sent ripples across its surface. Vaya's breathing became shallow, rapid pants as her silver eyes widened with primal terror. "It's one of them," she whispered, her voice breaking. "The parasites they use to track us. Or worse, a hunter, waiting for the right moment." Her purple skin had paled to an almost lavender hue, and cold sweat beaded on her forehead despite the fire's warmth. Kale studied the corner with confusion. "Vaya, I don't see—" "Don't look directly at it," she hissed, her fingers digging into his arm hard enough to leave marks. "They sense when they're being watched." "Oh gods. How long has it been there?" "How long has it been studying us?" Her whole body began to shake uncontrollably. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to fight, to do anything but remain trapped in this cabin with whatever lurked beneath that innocuous fabric. Her legs tensed, as if to bolt, but the wound in her side sent sharp spikes of pain through her core, reminding her how weak she still was. The blanket rustled again. A soft, almost tentative movement that could have been mistaken for a draft if not for Vaya's visceral reaction. She pressed herself against Kale's chest, seeking shelter in his solid presence even as terror consumed her rational thoughts. "It's playing with us," she breathed against his neck, her warm breath making him shiver. "They do that sometimes. Let the prey think they're safe before—" Another movement, more pronounced. Something small shifted beneath the fabric, and Vaya's composure finally shattered completely. She tried to stand, to flee despite her injuries, but Kale's arms came around her, holding her gently but firmly against him. "Shh," he murmured into her blonde hair, feeling her heart racing against his chest. "Whatever it is, I won't let it hurt you, I promise." But even as he spoke the words, Kale found himself staring at the corner with growing unease. The fabric definitely contained something alive, something that seemed to respond to their voices with subtle movements. And if Vaya's terror was any indication, whatever hid beneath that blanket posed a very real threat. "Stay here," Kyle said firmly, gently but decisively disentangling himself from Vaya's desperate grip. Her silver eyes went wide with panic as he stood. "No, please don't," she gasped, reaching for him with trembling hands. "It will kill you. Then me. We have to run." But Kale was already moving toward the corner, his expression calm and determined. Each step felt like an eternity to Vaya, who pressed herself deeper into the couch cushions, certain she was about to witness his death. "Whatever's under there," he called softly over his shoulder. "It's been more afraid of us than we are of it." Vaya's breath caught in her throat as Kale knelt beside the blanket. The movement beneath stilled completely, as if sensing the approaching presence. With infinite care, he grasped the edge of the worn fabric. "Please," Vaya whispered one final time. Kyle lifted the blanket. For a heartbeat, silence filled the cabin. Then Vaya's world shattered and reformed in the space of a single breath. Huddled in the corner, thin arms wrapped around knees drawn tight to chest, was a small figure with familiar purple skin and blonde hair that fell in tangled waves. Silver eyes, so like her own, stared up at them with the glazed terror of someone who had seen too much, survived too much. Thane. The name fell from Vaya's lips like a prayer, like disbelief, like hope reborn. The child, no more than 10 in human years, blinked slowly, as if trying to determine whether this was real or another cruel dream. "Vaya," came the whispered response, voice cracked from crying and hiding and staying silent for so very long. Vaya's legs nearly gave out as she stumbled toward them, her wounds forgotten in the rush of impossible joy. She collapsed beside her younger sibling, pulling the small form into her arms with desperate tenderness. "I thought you were dead," she sobbed into Thane's hair. "I searched everywhere. How are you here? How—" Through her tears, she looked up at Kale, who watched the reunion with gentle understanding in his eyes. "You found them," she breathed. "You brought us together." The blanket that had symbolized her darkest fears now lay forgotten on the floor, transformed into nothing more than fabric that had sheltered the most precious thing in her universe. Dawn. broke softly over the alien landscape. The storm's fury spent and replaced by gentle rainfall that washed the world clean. Inside the cabin, 3 unlikely souls had found something none of them expected: family. Thane slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, curled between Vaya and Kale on the expanded bedding they'd arranged near the fire. The child's small hand clutched the very blanket that had once hidden them, now serving as comfort rather than concealment. Vaya's arm curved protectively around her sibling while her other hand rested trustingly against Kale's chest. "The hunters won't think to look for us here," Vaya murmured, watching the rise and fall of Thane's breathing. "Your world is considered too remote, too dangerous for most species." Kyle's fingers traced gentle patterns along her purple shoulder. "Then you'll stay, both of you, for as long as you need." She looked up at him with those luminous silver eyes, seeing not the stranger who had rescued them, but the man who had given them something more precious than shelter. He had given them each other. "Why?" she asked softly. "We're not your people. We're not even your species." "Family isn't about species," he replied, pressing a tender kiss to her forehead. "It's about who you choose to protect, who you choose to love." Thane stirred sleepily, silver eyes fluttering open to confirm this wasn't another dream. Finding both Vaya and Kale still there, the child smiled, the first genuine smile in too long, and burrowed deeper into the warmth of their embrace. Outside, Kale's communication array quietly transmitted a message to the authorities about a remote settlement that needed protection from raiders. He'd registered it under his name, claiming legal guardianship of 2 refugees seeking asylum. The paperwork was already approved. As Vaya drifted back toward sleep, her gaze fell once more on the blanket that had terrified her so completely, just hours before. Now it represented something entirely different: sanctuary, safety, the unexpected kindness of a stranger who had become so much more. The blanket that had hidden her greatest fear had also concealed her greatest hope. Sometimes, she realized, the things that frighten us most are simply love waiting to be discovered.